Well, hello and welcome to Grace Church on the Hill. Sarah, thanks for joining me for this talk.
My pleasure. It's really nice to be here.
Yeah, we often see each other, in passing on Sunday mornings, but there's not much of a chance to sit down and talk.
These days, it is like a rare and joyful occasion to be, with another person and sitting and talking. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, well, I'm glad we can do this.
Yeah.
I thought I'd start off just by asking a little bit about what's happening right now. What can folks expect? We're in Epiphany. We're about to enter Lent.
Mm-hmm.
It's Black History Month. Do you want to give a teaser for some of what's coming up?
Yeah, I mean, it's this year has been, for all of us, just an incredible exercise in sort of responding and pivoting and shifting with the public health situation. So, we had hoped to be working with the octet of leads through this time and made the decision that, it didn't feel like the right thing to do, just given that we're in a stay-at-home order. But I'm looking forward to being able to resume that work, which means that we'll be preparing some choral music through Lent and obviously for Easter and Holy Week, which are really important times in our year and certainly musically very rich. So that's exciting. I'm really excited to getting back to that work. The choral tradition at Grace Church on the Hill is, a huge part of our liturgy and our worship and our community and our sort of sense of how we come together and worship, and just adds a different dimension to what it means to come to church.
People I've just met and who maybe don't go to church will recognize Grace Church on the Hill when I tell it to them, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, I've heard they have a great music program," or "I've been to a concert there." So yeah,
it's a huge part of the history of this place and the tradition of this place. The acoustic is incredible. It's a very sought after space for recording, and so it's a big part of what we do. And so of course, it's like really been challenging to be now all of a sudden singing is sort of a very high risk activity in a time of pandemic, and to find ways to keep that tradition visible and part of what we do, of course, in like a very modified way. But it's also, given us an opportunity to do some different things. Obviously, we're hearing more solo music. We're getting some instrumentalists in. Nathan Hiltz has been providing his incredible talent and artistry sort of throughout this whole year. Emma Fisher, Karen Usha, just wonderful people who are part of this community who are stepping up and saying, yeah, I want to contribute. Since we're doing this different thing. Yeah.
That's one thing that's impressed me, is just the range of musical styles that I've seen even in my 6 months here. It seems unusual not just for a church to have that, but also in such a constricted time to be able to, pull from a lot of different people.
Yeah, and I think it's really important to me to bring other types of music, because I think theologically it allows us to enter into the liturgy in a different way. The Anglican choral tradition is an incredible entry point, and obviously that tradition in itself is very varied and diverse, but to do spirituals, today we did a little bit of jazz, we did some Duke Ellington, which is like a big departure for me in terms of what I'm familiar with and comfortable with. It just provides a different entry point into worship and into that experiencing those pauses in the liturgy to sort of receive through listening.
Mm-hmm. I like that word, pauses. I hadn't thought of that, but especially now when we can't really sing, it does feel more like kind of a pause where I'm receiving more than giving, and it's more attentive than, which obviously has its drawbacks of not being able to
Sure.
participate, but
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah, it's changed hymns from being, I think, this experience of like extroversion and this experience of group participation. I mean, the act of singing together. As somebody who's sung in choirs my whole life, like there's something magical about that, and there's something really important about doing that as a congregation. I think for some people, maybe the only time they sing all week, right? If you're not a singer, if that's not part of your life. And so, of course, like the loss of that is a big loss, and so it changes, the way that the hymns in the liturgy function, and perhaps they're more of a space of meditation or prayer, or just to receive what the language of the text is, how the melody feels, and so it's different, and it is a different, certainly a different experience to stand up there and sing them alone. So we try to do something different with them.
Yeah. Well, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about when you're not alone, when before this pandemic and hopefully after the pandemic, what music here looks like. Because as someone who came in September, it's all new to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have like an incredibly unique choral program because, and I think this is true for all choirs, like all choirs are community, but there is something about the community of choristers here that does community in a way, I think, that is like very special. We like normally this space is like full of choristers. It's on Tuesdays, it's full of kids, playing soccer and hopefully not breaking windows, but like running around. Like there are kids in this church running around. We have lock-ins. We're playing hide and go seek in this space in the dark. Like there's all this sort of life on Tuesdays, and we rehearse with them. And on Thursdays, often if you come in here, like as soon as school is over, there's a bunch of teenagers sitting in this room, either like playing piano and singing together, doing their homework, like just, hanging out and having a good time before choir practice. And then we have all the choristers come on Thursday, and then they all stay, or not all of them, but a good group of them will stay afterwards and have fellowship together. And, it is this like intergenerational family. I remember we were on tour once in Ottawa, and a bunch of us were sitting at a table. There were maybe like 12, 15. We were out at a restaurant eating oysters, and this couple came up to us, and they were looking around the table at all the different people and the different ages, and just and they said, like, we're trying to figure out, like, what are you?
Yeah.
Like, are you a family? Or like what?
You're like, yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're a choir. But it has that feeling of family, and so for sure, it is a big loss for all of us this year. I feel it. I know it is for many of our volunteer choristers, because so much of what we do, well, almost all of what we do has to be in proximity, has to be in spaces together. And, I say almost all because, of course, we are still getting together and doing Zoom practices. And of course, the choir was famously singing out in the dark and the cold until I think it was the end of November.
Brave souls.
Yeah, because they're just those kind of folks, and I know a handful of them came and sang Christmas carols on Christmas Eve. You know, so you've got these, like, yeah, brave, dedicated souls masked 6 feet apart in the dark on Christmas Eve, because like that is like so central to what many of us do here, and so it's been really heartening for me to see the dedication and camaraderie and just that like relentless sense of like, we're just going to keep being who we are and doing what we do, even though of course it is in this completely altered and you know, challenging way. But yeah, it gives me hope, and it makes me excited about a time when we might, and will, not might, we will, at some point we will come back together and we will make music in the way that we do. So.
Yeah, you can finally press play on this pause that we've been in.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, the way you're talking about that community of people just reminds me of kind of the rest of worship, how it's, even though we're still there and still having Holy Communion, it does feel like just stripped down and simplified, and yeah, definitely I think the best thing that happens is that it points forward to a future when we're back together, but it is definitely a trial in the meantime.
Yeah. Yeah. It's, I don't know, I think I never would have thought so, like, obviously none of us were prepared for this, but the reality of time and place and proximity, like just how important those things are to our humanity, I think has been like super underscored for me, because Zoom is, you know, a wonderful tool that has allowed us to stay connected and live streaming and all. Like without these tools, we would be in a much worse off situation. And yet every time I'm on a Zoom call, I am also aware of like being alone in a room with these people who I love, you know, with these people who I am used to sharing myself with in a more fulsome way. And it's just pales in comparison to, yeah. So, but I also, I'm reminded that like after the Spanish flu, right, was like the Roaring '20s, and so I wonder what our Roaring '20s will be, and the music that will come out of it, and the art and the joy and the collaboration, and just, you know, that the best of who we are will again be able to flourish. And so it could be very cool. What's to come, you know?
That's fun to think a century ago what things flowered in the wake of that dry period. Yeah, I'm curious if you have maybe more specific thoughts about what you see happening here at Grace when things open back up a little bit, or just generally musically what you're looking forward to.
I mean, like, I just want to be in the same, like, I think about often, especially if I'm feeling a little bit down, I think about those like first rehearsals back, and even like, you know, we do choir practice on Zoom. We get together and we warm up together, and you know, one of the things on Zoom is like you have to mute everybody else, so I'm the only one who gets to sing. And I think about like what it's going to be like on that first rehearsal back when I lead us through a warm up and I hear all of those voices, I'm just gonna cry.
Yeah.
Like,
We're just gonna have Kleenex all over.
yeah, like I think we're gonna have to have like a whole rehearsal just for like crying and laughing.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited for that, and when that time comes, and I'm hopeful. Like I think there is a sense that we can hope in a timeline that we can maybe see.
Yeah.
And touch, that once most of the population is vaccinated, that we'll be able to do that. So that I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to singing some music that is like dearly loved by our choir, and being here on Sunday mornings. And I think the hardest thing about this year, I think, is that the volunteer singers, who are the lifeblood of this choir program, have not been able to contribute musically to the liturgy as much as in very small ways. And we've had some video footage of them singing outside, and of course we have these recordings back from 2018 that we did with the full choir. But their contribution to the liturgy is the most exciting part of the choir program here. It's not so much about the music as it is about the people making the music, making it together. It's a twice a week commitment, to be in the choir here, and a lot of people make that commitment and like care really deeply about it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. I certainly look forward to being inundated by those other voices. I mean, I'm fortunate to be able to, feel the organ when Tom's playing the deeper notes, but look forward to, having more bodies up in the chancel there, and feeling that interpersonal energy. I think that comes from worshiping together. Yeah. Well, Sarah, thanks for talking.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. Take care. Join us next week for one final installment in Epiphany, and then a new series in Lent.
Goodbye.